You're leading an uprising against the oppressive and evil Empire. They sit in the middle of the land and send their legions out to destroy you and your people. But while they work out from the center, coming in from the waste is chaos full of undead and demons. You'll have to beat them both to win an Uprising Curse of the Last Emperor, which was designed by Cornelius Kremen, Paul Mazur, and Dirk Summer, and published by Nemesis Games, who helped sponsor this video. Also, Uprising is now live on Gamefound with a new wave of content for this epic co-op 4X game, and for the first time with a true solo mode. Hi everybody, my name is Nick Murphy of the Brothers Murph, and we are here with Board Game Geek. Well, the legions and hordes are gathering, so let's get this game down to the table to go a little more in focus on Uprising Curse of the Last Emperor. In Uprising Curse of the Last Emperor, 1 to 4 players are working together to fight against 2 enemies at once, the Empire and Chaos. The Empire rules the land from the center and moves outward, and Chaos are demon spawn attacking from the outside in. Each player must have more victory points than both the Empire and Chaos at the end of the game for the players to win. But not as all lost, because the 2 enemies also hate each other and will fight each other. The game takes place on a modular, randomized map of hexes and is played across 2 to 4 chapters. There are multiple difficulties the players can choose from. Each chapter has 7 phases. The refresh phase readies your cards and action points and brings out new items and quests. The event phase flips over the next event. These can add in new resources and will spawn legions and hordes. Each enemy faction has 2 types of units. The Empire has garrisons, which can be built up to a level of 3, and legions. Legions are all unique and have different powers and roll different dice. Chaos has skeletons and hordes. Hordes, like legions, are all unique but also spread curses. In the build phase, players can spend their resources, salt, food, and plunder, to build defenses on havens or build units. Each player will also draw 2 feats and choose which one to keep. Each player can pick from, so far, 10 unique factions, and every faction has 2 unique heroes with their own deck of cards. Their feats can be ongoing powers, things you could use in combat, or can increase your hero's stats. After building comes the action phase, which is the bulk of the player's turns. Each player has 8 action points every round, and all actions cost 1 action point to do. For 1 point, your hero can move to an adjacent hex. Heroes can go pretty much anywhere, and they're not considered a unit, which means they can't attack anything, but they also can't be attacked. You can trade for 1 action point, and every point you spend gains you 1 salt, or if your hero is on the same hex as another hero, you can trade with that player. The command action is how you move your units. You will pay 1 food and then move units from adjacent hexes to your hero's hex. If your hero is on an unexplored hex, they may spend an action to explore that hex and flip it over. These will often spawn garrisons or skeletons. If you're on an empty hex, meaning it has no enemies or other havens, you may build one of your havens. This is where you will place your units and defenses during the build action, and they will generate victory points during the scoring phase. The market action allows you to spend salt to gain items from the market and equip them to your hero. These do a litany of different things and are always very helpful. Lastly, you may attempt to complete one of the quests. Each quest has a certain amount of skulls, shields, and bolts to be completed, though you usually don't need to meet all 3 conditions. You will roll dice equal to your hero's attributes. Might gives you red dice, magic gives you purple, leadership gives you blue, and guile gives you either white or yellow. This card shows you the breakdown of the various die phases. If you complete a quest, you will gain the rewards under the conditions you met and the solve reward. If you do not meet the amount of conditions you are required to, you resolve the fail portion. After all players have used all 8 action points, we move to the Nemesis phase. Now it's the enemy's turn to activate. Throughout the round, the enemies will be gaining activation tokens, and this will dictate how many times they activate. Legions target specific players, and hordes will generally move towards havens, leaving curses along the way. Whenever enemy units are in the same hex as player units, combat takes place. But remember that the enemy factions are also against each other, so if they're ever in the same hex, they will fight each other as well. Each player unit has different dice they will roll in combat, and each enemy unit has their own as well. First, there is an archery phase, and any units with the bow and arrow symbol will roll their dice. Then the clash phase happens, and symbols with the sword symbol will roll their dice. The clash phase will then repeat until there is only 1 faction left in the hex. Skulls damage units, shields block skulls, and bolts do different things for different units. Each legion and horde has a unique bolt effect, and garrison and skeletons have their own as well, printed on the board. When players roll a bolt, they will get to use one of the druid powers that are around the board. This set of available powers is also randomized each game. Now remember that your hero is not a unit and doesn't participate in fights, but it's still good to have them there, as many of their feats and items will help in battles that they're present for. Legions and hordes have a certain amount of threat. When you damage them, this threat will lessen, which means they will roll roll less and less dice. Once their threat is completely gone, they are defeated and you will gain the benefit at the bottom, usually victory points. Defeating skeletons and garrisons gives you points as well. If the enemy factions defeat player units or other enemy units, they will collect the units into their graveyard, which will give them points. After the Nemesis phase, there is the production phase where players will produce resources. Then lastly, there's the scoring phase. The Empire will score points for their garrisons, legions, and for each faction represented in their graveyard. Chaos will score points for their curses, hordes, and factions in their graveyard. And players will score for their havens, special hexes they control, and they may spend resources for points. At the end of the last chapter, after the final scoring phase, you will compare scores. If every player has more points than both the Empire and Chaos, the players win. If they don't, the players lose. Uprising is tough. It's hard enough to go against one overbearing enemy in a big co-op game like this, but in this game you have two attacking you from multiple sides. Now they're also fighting each other, but you have to have more points than both of them to win, so it's not like you can just sit back and let them go at it. And if Uprising: Curse of the Last Emperor seems like a game you'd enjoy, make sure to check out their crowdfunding campaign live now on Gamefound, link in the description below. And until next time, I've been Nick Murphy and we've been going in focus on Uprising: Curse of the Last Emperor. Have a great day.